Our Cavaliers talk today is brought to us by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where do my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full responsibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spendings in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. You guys already alluded to it, but last night a complete catastrophe for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Got boat raced from start to finish by the Indiana Pacers, and now they face elimination Tuesday night in Game 5. G. Bush, we'll start with you, but everything that could have went wrong did go wrong for Cleveland. They got outmanned, out-toughed, out-physicaled, outplayed, out-coached, and there may not be a single positive to take away from that 48-minute display of basketball.
Yeah, it's disappointing. You win all those games in the regular season, and it makes people, we heard Bulls say, I don't care about none of this stuff until they get to the postseason. And when you play like that, what it does, it puts that thing in the back of your mind where all of a sudden you already start the wheels of motion and you can already start hearing people say, all right, you mess with the coach or you messing with the roster. They can rationalize it and say, well, we collapsed in Game 2 because we didn't have our guys. Darius was hurt in the playoffs. Donovan got injured again. We were without Evan. We were very close in this series, and we believe in what we build, and we're going to keep running it back. That's probably what they'll end up saying. But the damning part is that those 64 wins are going to put you in a position where this is the third year in a row with this core group of guys, where you've looked incredibly weak, incredibly downtrodden, incredibly no strength in physically, emotionally, or spiritually when you get down. And I think the biggest problem with this group of individuals and this team is this. They let their ability to make shots ride and override everything else that happens in their game. I.e., if shots are not falling, if they don't see three-point shots going through the rim, if they don't get out to a good start, if the shots ain't falling, every other part of their game falls off. Their intensity, their defense, just adhering to the scouting report, passing the ball, moving the ball, hustle, physicality. All of those things are dictated on whether the Cleveland Cavaliers are making shots. And when they miss shots and they make 8 baskets in the first half, you can watch systematically how every other part of their game falls off. Guys that are running around with their heads cut off. We talk about it from a situation. Jared Allen watch the guy. Why are you? Myles Turner can shoot. Why are you with your head down trying to just his head is down. He has terrible body language, and 3 straight possessions he's giving airspace to Myles Turner with half-hearted closeouts. That's not attention to detail, the scouting report, and that is you cannot be a front runner in the NBA. You cannot let shot making control your energy, and they do it. And I'll pass it off because there's a lot of stuff to talk about in this game. The most disappointing part about it is everybody looking like they didn't understand what type of time it was. For a team that won 64 games, for a team that is not young, for a team that has veterans, not understanding this was a make-or-break game and coming out with some intensity and, frankly, desperation and getting beat by 40, it is frankly inexcusable. And it just goes to the point. They may come back and win this series. It's 5% chance, I think, when people are down 3-1, they'll come back. They could come back in this series, but that's a very big part and problem of the construction in this team. And it's just the mental toughness, physical toughness. And when they're not hitting shots, they let everything else fall to waste.
Can you put up that plaque again for Allen?
Yeah, he was terrible last night. 20 minutes, 2 points, 2 rebounds.
Look, not a field goal. Took 1 shot. Grabbed 2 rebounds. What's that? I need somebody to explain to me how that can happen.
There is no logical explanation for that.
I am absolutely flummoxed. That's one of 100 things I'm flummoxed about. I think my overriding takeaway is the Cavs are a team built for the regular season. That's what they are. They lack toughness. They lack grit. They lack collectively being able to rise to the moment. That was as big a letdown from a Cleveland sports team that we had expectations for that I can ever remember. If that were a baseball game, they lost 12-2. If it were a football game, they lost 56-3.
Dang.
It was you're down 41 points at halftime. I just don't have any answers other than to say they're soft. And to quote the late Dennis Green, they are who most people thought they were. And when I watch Indiana's a crazy team. That is a perfect example of a team that is better than its individual parts. You know, some teams have great superstars. Phoenix comes to mind, and you watch them and be like, what? Well, how can they be that bad? And then other teams have, I don't want to disparage their players. They have fine players. They lack a true superstar. They do. But they have guys that collectively fit together and move the machine every single night. And the Cavs have this collection of core four, and you know, how many All-Stars are we going to have, and are we going to have the DPOY, and all of this stuff. And when you put them together in games that matter, they look like that.
I come out with one person. When they put them in games like that, you could not count on Jared Allen. You still can't give the ball to Evan Mobley and say, go get 30. And I can't count on Darius Garland to be healthy.
Yeah, it's Mitchell.
It's Donovan Mitchell carrying the team again. And we can squint and we can make believe that that's not what it is. But everybody else turned into regular people. Ty Jerome he's
on a milk carton.
Shout out to him for the regular season. I want y'all to understand, I'm not disparaging him. He balled out in the regular season. But this series, he looks 3 steps slower than everybody. He looks like he can't elevate. He looks lost on defense. Yeah. He looks like he's having trouble bringing the ball up the court. It just looks like the guys that they have are severely. It looks almost like the varsity playing the JV. It just looks like it.
Yeah, they're outmatched.
You go 1 for 14 and then one for 8, and then it's just tough, man.
Jay, how can a team look so great Tuesday or Friday, and 48 hours later look like imposters?
That's basketball. It happens.
But to that degree, they blew Indiana off the floor Friday.
Yeah, they did. And, I mean, we could go 100 different ways with this. If you want to talk X's and O's for a second, I said before the series, Kenny's in for a battle because he started with Eric Spoelstra and now he's got Rick Carlisle. Those are 2 of the best coaches in the NBA. And I thought Rick did a really nice job last night.
Great.
The Cavs kind of threw a punch on Indy. Mike and I were talking about this during Game 3. When they went to the 3-2 zone and put Evan at the top of the 3-2 zone, I told him, I wonder if this is something they were trying to say for Boston, but the building's on fire, so you got to break the glass. And Indiana didn't know what to do with it. Indiana really struggled with that zone.
They did.
And last night
they figured it out.
They had all the answers for it last night, to the point where then they moved Mobley. They stayed in the 3-2 zone but moved Evan back to the back line. They tried different things with it. Indiana attacked mismatches. Siakam on Darius just took him to the post and whooped him. TJ McConnell was hunting Dean Wade and blowing by Wade. Wade looked at like they blew pick and roll defensive coverages. I went back and watched most of the first half this morning.
Oh, how did
just
you
to
do
try.
that?
Well, I just wanted to get it. I was really more concerned with the defensive side than the offensive side.
They had so many turnovers too.
They did. They were a disaster on the offensive side.
All 5 starters had 2 turnovers at least in the first half.
It was like they were playing with intoxication.
But I'm with
something.
Jason. The defense was way more concerning.
Clearly, they were not ready to play last night. That falls on Kenny. But it's also a fault. Like, these are grown men.
Yeah.
It's the conference semifinals.
Take responsibility.
And again, like, I don't want to run out screaming, it's over, it's over, it's over.
Right.
We'll see what happens tomorrow night. Let's see. But if this continues trending this way, they told you the issue was coaching. They brought the entire roster back. and they changed out the head coach. And for the regular season, they were right. It was the right move. The way Kenny used Evan, some of the designs that they brought on the offense, it worked. But what this series is showing you is it's not just the coaching, that there is a level of physicality and a level of play that this team, for whatever reason, is not prepared to meet the moment. And injuries are part of it. Like, we can't totally dismiss it. I refuse to use it as an excuse. Darius should have played game 2, period. I don't care what anybody says. He should have played game 2. I'm glad he came back for game 3 and game 4. And yeah, he's fighting through it. I'm sure it hurts like hell. This is why you're making $39 million a year, dude. Yeah. This is, if you're going to be a franchise pillar, this is what you are expected to do. You think Jalen Brunson is missing all that time with a toe injury? You think Donovan is missing all that? So it sounds rough and it sounds like insensitive. This is the reality where they're at. And it's the same thing with Jarrett last year with the rib and not playing in the second round. And we wrote about that and how frustrating that was for everybody. And even people within the team were kind of frustrated that he just wouldn't get back on the floor. So there's a recurring pattern here with this stuff. So the problem now, and again, I don't want to get too far down the road, but it's worth at least pointing out. The problem now is you are now entering the second apron. And you are entering a second apron with a team that got absolutely curb stomped last night by a 4 seed that does not have an elite player. Tyrese Haliburton is great.
Yeah.
He's great. Yeah. He is not a top 4 or 5 player in this league.
Not.
And that's why I want to see what happens tomorrow.
What did they do to him in game 3 that held him to 4 points?
Haliburton? I mean, he only had 11 last night.
I know, but this is the guy that's carried them the first 2 games, and then, boom, they flip a switch. He comes out, he has 4 points.
His left wrist is severely
I don't agree.
hindered.
I think, listen, Neesmith has been more physical. Matherin has been a problem child. He has been doing what he does. I think there's a fundamental flaw. And when you watch the way that the Pacers play, the Pacers understand that they have to be gritty, they have to be edgy, they have to do certain things. The Cavs, it's like if they're not hitting threes, everybody in the league is saying you can get them. Because what you start to do is they start hunting people. Let me get Dean Wade ISO. Let me find Max Strus ISO. Let me get Darius Garland ISO, definitely. And I thought that the 3-2 worked because you had Evan Mobley at the top of the key. And I'm like, this is crazy. They shut him down in game 3. Evan Mobley running around chasing people out with his length, that was wild.
But there's a reason teams don't play zone for 48 minutes.
Yeah,
it's teams consider it a junk defense. And you can
get away
shoot
with
over it. It's a good change up to a fastball.
And they came back at it, and Obi Toppin was getting right down the middle of the lane.
I thought Kenny stuck with it way too long.
I did too. I thought the same thing.
They
prepared for it. They were ready for it. But you let them have it the whole game.
That's why Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Yeah, he's tremendous.
And I thought they did a great job. And we haven't even talked about the Matherin DeAndre thing yet, because I actually thought maybe this is going to wake him up.
Yeah, I thought this was going to
do it.
And you know what?
It put him to sleep.
I don't care if Hunter would have gotten ejected. It might have helped them. I thought he did the right thing, because you eventually you can't keep taking this stuff. No. And teams look at the Cavs and say, we're going to go right at their neck, and they're not going to do anything about it. The way it was a cheap shot.
Yeah, it was.
And for him to cheap shot him like that, and then it's like he cheap shot him on the playground and then ran to the recess monitor and said, watch this.
Yep.
And the flop and everything else, I actually thought the officials got it right. He should have been ejected for that, and Hunter shouldn't have been. But even if they would have ejected him, you would think that would light some sort of fire under them, and it didn't. And it reminded me of the Knicks series 2 years ago where Mitchell Robinson laughed at Jared Allen, and then he did it again to him. And when Mitchell Robinson was laughing in the press conference, I thought, okay, this will wake him up. This show, pull them out now and show us what you got. And
that's exactly why I said they're soft.
And there was no answer from the Cavs 2 years ago.
And then
there was no answer last night. If anything, when Matherin got ejected, if anything, it gave the Pacers a lift.
It felt like they withered after that.
They did. It was 22-10, I think, 22-11 after the free throw, and the Pacers took off after that.
Players, just like humans, they have DNA. And we've talked about the group that the Cavs have put together. Boy, they're such nice guys. Aren't they nice? They're good citizens. And that's great, and we want that. And the question is, and it remains to be determined, and the good news is they've got 3 chapters left to rewrite this book. Right now, this book is looking like this unexpected tragedy. But there are 3 chapters, perhaps, left, depending on how hard they write the next chapter. I do think that this is a scalable mountain. I do.
Of course it is.
The Cavs are good enough to win this series. They're good enough to play in Game 5 like they played in Game 3. They're good enough to play in Game 6 like they played in Game 3 because that's at Indianapolis, and they did the same thing there. And they're good enough to win a Game 7 at home. What determines whether or not they do that is what's inside them right now. We know they have the talent. We know they have the ability. But it comes down to what is their DNA. What can't you change about a person? The saying is, a tiger can't change his stripes.
Facts.
You can't change your eye color. You can't change what DNA built you with. And my fear for this team is their DNA is turn the other cheek. Like, we're nice guys. We're good guys. We're going to find out what their want to is. We're going to find out what their desire to win is. They can rewrite this awful tragedy. There are pages left unwritten. It's in their hands. What do they want to write?
They have. To me, it comes down to the fact, and I'm gonna keep it real. Max Strus has played with fire and intensity. He's been their second best player. Max Strus is
not even close, G.
Not
intensity
even close.
for sure.
He's been intense. He's wanted it. He's done it. And I don't understand if you got, like you said, Darius Garland is making $39 million, and I don't even like talking about people's money. I just want you to show up, and I've been talking about you showing up, and when it counts the most. And here's the thing: I wouldn't even put them stats up. Listen, anything after
that's not what it was.
Anything after halftime, I ain't looking at none of them stats. Mobley, Allen, and Darius Garland. When are you going to show up? When are you going to show up,
when
Jason?
It counts.
I told Mike during Game 3, just watch the game. Donovan trusts Max more than anybody else. That's who he's looking for.
He's shown the most.
In big moments.
He's shown the most.
He's never going to admit that. But just watch. Watch who he's looking for. Watch who he's throwing it to. Donovan is looking for Max in the big moments. Donovan trusts Max more than anybody else, I believe.
And right now, he's not wrong for trusting him more than anybody else.
I mean, he's got the finals experience.
Yep.
He's the one guy.
He's showing intensity. He's showing emotion. It resonates with me so tough. And I'm watching. It's almost like watching a bully beat up a kid. And I'm watching Myles Turner just walking a three-point shot after three-point shot, and Jared Allen
and then mocks them afterwards.
Yes, and Jared Allen is just almost saying, hey, just get me out of here. I don't want to get beat like this on national TV. Or I'm like, dude, you sulking is not going to stop them from being people who run away from competition. That's the primordial part of the game is the competition level, and the Cavs simply didn't do anything to compete in a game that you would think you would be desperate for.
I got 2 things I want to ask you guys about. So don't let me forget the second one. I want to ask the first one, though.
All right.
It is completely inexcusable in my mind to come out as flat as the Cavs did in a Game 4 in the second round of the playoffs when you're down 2-1 on the road. Completely inexcusable.
Yep.
And I don't remember who of the 3 of you guys just said it, but that falls on Kenny for not having them ready. I'm curious because maybe I'm slightly jaded based on my own experience playing for an older coach who was not a pregame rah-rah speech guy. But to get ready for a game and to get up from an intensity standpoint, I always think that falls on the players.
That's what I said. They're grown men.
So I'm curious.
Regardless of sport, too,
They're I said that's on Kenny for not having it ready, but I also said
players have to take
they're
responsibility.
Grown men
too,
in the conference semifinals.
Bring it. If you need to be motivated, what is this, junior high?
I agree with you. So I just was curious.
But there's a rah-rah Hoosier speech in the locker room of I love you guys, let's go kill them. And then there's the game plan and the X's and O's.
Sure.
And they got completely out.
Neither one of them.
They didn't check either box.
Yeah.
What did Detroit, their first round series, did it go 7?
6.
So they won two games. At this point, the Cavaliers, with all this talent and all these awards in the regular season and everything that we've talked about, they've accomplished 3 more postseason wins than the Detroit Pistons, which looked like a complete train wreck until our old coach got there.
So last year, the Cavs made the second round of the playoffs.
Yup, and flamed out.
They lost 4-1.
Yep.
if things don't go right on Tuesday night, it would be the exact same spot the Cavs
100%.
bowed out last year.
Again, but it's not. It's not.
It's worse because of what they brought in.
That was the eventual champion that you lost to.
Yeah.
No, and I'm saying you expect that next step forward.
Hell,
much
Indiana
better regular
may be.
season. It's not happening. The other point I wanted to bring up, and this goes back to what G started with, and you guys have all touched on. You cannot say the Cavs have lost because of talent. This is now 2, potentially 3 seasons in a row where they have allowed skill to be neutralized by will. Basically is the best way to put it. The Cavs refuse, or have refused up until this point, to change the way they approach from an offensive standpoint when teams just get physical and try and impose their will on them. And it's not a talent thing.
No.
The Cavs are a more talented team than Indiana. I think they were a more talented team than Orlando was last season. I know that went 7, but remember, they were down 18 points in Game 7, and that came down to the wire. Boston was a more talented team, granted. But they cannot and have yet to show the ability to adapt when their style doesn't work, regardless of who the coach is. And if that's the case, then sure, you could keep changing the coach. But if it walks like a duck, and if it talks like a duck, y'all know the rest.
I just want look. If you're Donovan Mitchell, and people are talking about your legacy and whatever it is, listen, Donovan Mitchell, as these playoffs, the 3 seasons that I've seen him play, he has completely try to put the team on his back. The problem is when you're trying to put the team on your back and the way you play, he's a guy just doing this in the lane. He's 6'1", 6'2", and he's doing that. He's not LeBron. He's not even Kobe size. This isn't Joker. This isn't SGA. These guys are 6'6", 6'8", 6'10". This guy is 6'2", doing this. The problem with the Cleveland Cavaliers is you need other people to step up and to do something. And the problem is they just aren't doing it. They have not done it in 3 seasons. And when you have Jared Allen, who is a guy, and I'm not trying to beat up on Jared Allen, but if you're an energy guy, I heard Draymond Green say, if you're an energy guy, you have no choice but to be nasty. Because that's what you bring to the table. Physicality and energy. You have to bring it. And Darius Garland, and trust me, is it time to start saying, is Garland big enough? Is his body built big enough for him to be a player in which he is a focal point of an offense where he has the ball roughly 50% of the time? He had the jaw injury. He's had the toe injury. He's not the biggest guy in the world. When you're playing defense, they're finding him out on the court where whoever guard Darius, we're giving them the ball. And if your body can't hold up, it goes back to the construction. Can you have 2 small, skinny bigs, and can you have 2 shorter guards that when you play physical teams with guys less skilled than them, that they're going to muddy the waters? What are you able to do?
That is the question. And you mentioned Donovan carrying the team. What happens when an undersized guy like this puts himself out there for the first 3.5 games? It breaks down.
Right.
And to no one's surprise, we saw that last night. I'm surprised he was still up right after Game 3, to be perfectly honest. It all goes back to Game 2. When the season ends, you can put a circle around that one, and that is the headline that will go into the time capsule, because that's what went wrong.
Before we move on, we do have to, Donovan's going for an MRI today on the ankle. Obviously didn't play in the second half. He told Joe Vard and Chris Fedor he'll be fine to play. Wouldn't really elaborate on. The injury was weird.
We're going to talk about that a little later.
Wait.
Okay.
We are?
We're going to the whole topic on Donovan, the injury, and all that.
Oh, I thought we were talking about what would happen if he couldn't play.
Well, it all ties into the injury. But feel free to finish
because
your thoughts.
I'm really interested to hear where Jason wants to go with this.
Yeah, I was waiting.
No, we'll wait.
Go ahead,
we at least have to mention that he didn't play in the second half, and clearly whatever's been bothering him is still bothering him. I said last week the one dude who probably should not be playing is Donovan Mitchell. Because when you start screwing around with calf,
I don't like that KD stuff.
When you start screwing around with calf injuries, and I know they're calling this an ankle, but when you start screwing around with that, you are playing with career-altering disaster.
When somebody touched the back of their ankle like this,
I
don't want no parts of it.
Last thing before we bring Zach Jackson in, we'll get back to the Cavs. We'll talk plenty of Donovan Mitchell, but from an X's and O's standpoint early on, and I just want to make one point, then we can move on. How often in the first half, Jason and Jay, did we see Indiana get the switch they wanted and immediately attack the mismatch? I thought Rick Carlisle was brilliant last night in finding ways to force Cleveland into switches, whether it be Garland or Strus, onto Toppin or Siakam, and Myles Turner certain times on Max Strus, and immediately get the ball down low.
And immediately score.
And score. We talked about it against Miami.
Barbecue
I've said it a few
chicken.
times throughout the regular season. The Cavs, on paper, have the size to take advantage of those mismatches when other teams do the same to them. The Cavs, from a stylistic standpoint, didn't dump the ball into the post, and Indiana doesn't do it a ton either. They made it a emphasis to do so last night. And it got Darius in early foul trouble. It got Siakam hot. He'd struggled offensively, hadn't scored over 20 points in, I believe, 7 straight playoff games. He got going right away, and that momentum early just carried on to quarters 2, 3, 4. I thought the way Carlisle attacked the Cavaliers from an offensive standpoint was really smart, and I was disappointed. And I keep going back to that word, disappointed. The Cavs had no answer and no response and no fight to make the change, even if it – exactly.
Like, I kept saying, oh, they're going to fix this. In this timeout, they're going to fix this. This is obvious what's going on. And he never fixed it.
You got to think this is Dallas Mavericks with Carlisle. Like, he ain't –
He's in his
he
bag
ain't
right
no
now.
slap. He ain't no slouch, bro.
No,
he found them matchups, and shout out to him. He found them, and I always said the Cavs, to me, they switch a lot. I always ask McNuggets, I mean, what happened to regular hedging and getting back? What happened? Like, I don't think they switched their pick and roll up enough to kind of give them different looks. But once you get rolling like that downhill, you start going down underneath to your bigs. I thought that was brilliant because Darius got in foul trouble, and it showed that they were willing to go inside, and it opened the outside 3 up.
Remember, this is the first time for Kenny, too. This is Kenny's first time really going through this. He had a team in Brooklyn that one year went to the playoffs, but they were not legitimate, viable title contenders. So this is a first for him to navigate this.
He's got to know by now, though, this is different.
Oh, yeah.
He knows that.
Yeah.
I just was stunned at his lack of in-game adjustments. It just kept playing out and playing out.
I mean, I think the horses were out of the barn across the river and across state lines before.
We can't bring them back now.
Yeah.
I wondered I hate to say this, and then we'll move on. I was glad Donovan Mitchell took the second half off.
Oh, I did too.
And I'm not saying he took it off. It makes it sound like he's like, I'm tapping out. He clearly has an injury. He could have played. If it was a 1-point game, I bet Donovan Mitchell probably would have played. He's looking at the scoreboard going, well, for what?
Yeah.
What kind of damage am I going to do to my body in the next 24 minutes when we have to somehow find a way to erase a 41-point? Yeah, no. I'm gearing up for Game 5, and let's go.
You know